The fundamental challenge that faces nearly every person who aspires to achieve financial success is not a lack of intelligence, education, or opportunity. Rather, the fundamental challenge lies in the gap between wanting something and actually possessing it, between aspiring to wealth and creating the conditions through which wealth naturally flows into one's life. Napoleon Hill spent decades researching this exact challenge, interviewing hundreds of successful individuals and examining the lives of those who had failed despite having similar circumstances and resources available to them. What Hill discovered was that the difference between those who transformed their wants into wealth and those who remained trapped in cycles of wanting without achieving was not mysterious or inaccessible. Instead, it was based on a formula, a systematic, replicable process that could be understood and applied by anyone willing to engage in the work necessary to apply it. This formula, which Hill termed the Desire Formula, represents one of the most practical and powerful tools ever developed for the transformation of human wants into concrete physical manifestations of wealth and success. At its core, Hill's Desire Formula is based on a principle that seems almost too simple to be true. Wants become wealth through the deliberate engagement of a specific mental process that is then translated into corresponding physical action. The formula is not magic. It does not suggest that simply thinking about wealth in a certain way will cause money to appear in your bank account. Rather, the formula describes a psychological and practical process through which a person's internal mental state, their thoughts, beliefs, visualizations, and emotional engagements, influences their external behaviors, influences their actions in ways that create the circumstance. The formula transforms a vague, floating want into a clearly defined objective with a specific plan, and then provides a mechanism for maintaining focus and motivation as the person works to convert this objective into reality. The first step in Hill's Desire Formula is to understand the nature of wants and desires themselves. Most people experience wants constantly. They want to be wealthy. They want to travel. They want to own a beautiful home. They want to retire comfortably. They want to help their families. These wants are natural and normal. They are the expression of human aspiration and the desire for a better life. However, Hill discovered that there is a critical distinction between a want that remains a fleeting wish and a want that is transformed into a clear, burning desire. The difference lies in the intensity of the want and the clarity with which it is defined. A person might want to be wealthy in the same casual way that they want it to rain, so they do not have to water their garden. This kind of want creates little or no motivation to action. In contrast, a person might desire to accumulate a specific amount of wealth by a specific date through specific means with such intensity that this desire dominates their thinking and influences every major decision they make. This kind of desire generates powerful motivation and inevitably leads to action. Hill taught that to convert a want into wealth using his formula, the first essential step is to convert the vague want into a clearly defined desire. The specificity is not merely a semantic difference. It represents a fundamental shift in how the mind engages with the objective. When the objective is specific, the mind can begin to organize itself around achieving that objective. The mind can ask concrete questions. How much money do I need to accumulate each year? What skills do I need to develop? What connections do I need to make? What actions must I take? A vague want provides no framework for such questions, and therefore, the mind has no direction to move in. Concentrated desire differs from mere want, in that it is not fleeting or easily distracted. A person with concentrated desire returns constantly to their objective. They think about it in the morning when they wake up. They think about it during their day. They think about it in the evening before they sleep. This constant, returning focus on their objective begins to imprint the objective upon their subconscious mind. The subconscious mind, which controls the vast majority of human behavior and perception, gradually begins to accept the objective as real and achievable. The subconscious mind begins to organize the person's perceptions to highlight opportunities related to their objective. The subconscious mind begins to influence the person's decisions and behaviors in subtle ways that move them toward their objective. Hill explained that developing concentrated desire requires deliberate and consistent practice. This is where the written statement becomes so crucial. By writing down your objective in specific terms, the exact amount of money, the exact date, the exact plan for achieving it, you create a physical manifestation of your desire. This written statement then becomes the tool through which you maintain concentrated desire. By reading this statement aloud to yourself twice daily, preferably in the morning and evening, you keep your objective constantly present in your consciousness. Over time, this constant repetition and reinforcement causes your objective to imprint itself so deeply on your subconscious mind that it becomes your dominant thought and the governing force in your life. Many people create a clearly defined objective, but then undermine this objective by harboring doubts about whether the objective is actually achievable. A person might decide to accumulate $1 million by age 50, but then secretly believe that this is probably impossible for someone in their circumstances. This internal conflict between the stated objective and the internal belief about the likelihood of achieving the objective creates a contradiction that the mind cannot resolve. This contradiction creates confusion and prevents the mind from working effectively toward the objective. Hill taught that to overcome this challenge, a person must consciously and deliberately develop belief and faith in the attainability of their objective. This belief does not require that you see exactly how you will achieve your objective, or that you have perfect certainty that you will achieve it. Rather, it requires that you believe it is possible for you to achieve your objective if you persist with determination and engage in consistent, appropriate action. Hill recommended that a person reinforce this belief through affirmations and positive self-talk. A person might say to themselves, "It is possible for me to accumulate wealth. People have done it before from circumstances similar to mine. I possess the intelligence and capability to achieve my financial objective. I am worthy of financial success." These affirmations might seem simplistic or superficial, and indeed many people are initially skeptical of their value. However, Hill's research demonstrated that repeated affirmations gradually reprogram the subconscious mind and shift deep-seated limiting beliefs that have been internalized over years or decades. A person who has grown up believing that wealth is only for other people, for people from wealthy families, or with certain advantages, has internalized a limiting belief. This belief influences their behavior and decisions in subtle ways that prevent them from taking the actions necessary to achieve wealth. However, through repeated affirmations and deliberate work to replace this limiting belief with a new belief in their capacity to achieve wealth, the person can gradually shift their internal psychology. As this internal shift occurs, their external behaviors and decisions begin to change as well. The fourth step in Hill's Desire Formula is to create a concrete plan for achieving your objective. A clearly defined desire combined with intense focus and belief is powerful, but it must be channeled through concrete action. The plan does not need to be perfect or completely detailed at the outset. In fact, Hill taught that waiting for the perfect plan before taking action is a form of procrastination. Rather, the plan should be a reasonable outline of how you intend to move toward your objective, knowing that you will refine and improve the plan as you take action and learn what works and what does not work. The plan might include developing certain skills, acquiring certain knowledge, making certain connections, pursuing certain opportunities, or starting certain ventures. The key is that the plan gives your desire a pathway through which it can be translated into action. Hill emphasized that the plan should include specific actions that you will take in the short term, actions you can begin taking immediately or within days or weeks. Many people create elaborate long-term plans but then never take the first step to begin moving toward their objective. Hill taught that this is a mistake. The transformation from wants to wealth requires action. Action creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence sustains motivation. Therefore, you should identify specific actions that you can take immediately, and you should begin taking these actions as soon as possible after you've clarified your objective. These initial actions might not directly move you toward your objective, but they demonstrate to yourself that you are serious about achieving your objective. They break through the inertia that prevents action. They begin the process of translating your mental and emotional commitment into physical movement in the direction of your objective. Beyond simply reading your written objective and reciting affirmations, Hill taught that it is crucial to engage in vivid visualization of yourself as already having achieved your objective. When you visualize yourself having achieved your goal, you should not do so in a vague or abstract manner. Instead, you should create a detailed mental picture. If your objective is to accumulate wealth, you might visualize yourself in a beautiful home, driving a certain car, wearing certain clothes, eating at nice restaurants, supporting your family in the way you desire, and living the lifestyle that your wealth will enable. As you visualize these details, you should also engage emotionally with the visualization. You should feel the pride and satisfaction of having achieved your objective. You should feel the relief and security of having financial freedom. You should feel the joy of being able to provide for your family and pursue interests that are important to you. This visualization process might seem disconnected from the actual accumulation of wealth, but Hill's research demonstrated that it is profoundly connected. When a person repeatedly visualizes themselves as already having achieved their objective and engages emotionally with this visualization, the subconscious mind begins to treat this visualization as a form of memory or precedent. The mind accepts that this outcome is possible because, in a sense, the mind has already experienced it through visualization. This acceptance that the outcome is possible gradually translates into the person's behaviors and decisions. They begin to make different choices. They begin to pursue different opportunities. They begin to take actions that a person who does not believe in the possibility of their objective would never take. The sixth step in Hill's Desire Formula is to maintain persistent action in the direction of your objective, despite obstacles, setbacks, and the inevitable periods of doubt and discouragement that arise. The path from wants to wealth is never a straight line. Almost every person who achieves significant wealth encounters failures, disappointments, and times when their objective seems impossible. The difference between those who eventually achieve success and those who fail is not that the successful individuals never encounter obstacles. Rather, it is that they persist through obstacles while others give up. Hill taught that the key to persisting through obstacles is to maintain constant focus on your objective. When you encounter a setback, you return to your written statement of objective. You remind yourself why you set this objective in the first place. You visualize yourself as having achieved it. You remind yourself of the emotional reward that will come from achieving it. This constant return to your objective renews your motivation and provides the strength to persist through the setback. Hill also taught that persistence requires flexibility and strategy while maintaining firmness in objective. A person should not persist indefinitely with a strategy that is clearly not working. Instead, a person should be willing to try different approaches, to learn from failures, and to adapt their plan based on experience and feedback. However, they should remain unwavering in their commitment to the objective itself. If a person tries one business idea and it fails, this does not mean they should abandon their objective of accumulating wealth. Rather, it means they should learn from the failure, adjust their approach, and try a different method to achieve their objective. This combination of flexibility in strategy and firmness in objective is what allows people to persist through the challenges that inevitably arise on the path to success. Hill discovered through his research that people who achieve success often do so by surrounding themselves with other people who support their objective, who possess skills or knowledge they lack, and who can provide encouragement and guidance. Hill taught that a person should identify people who are supportive of their objective and who have achieved success in similar areas, and should seek out their advice and guidance. Additionally, a person should create what Hill called a mastermind group, a group of trusted individuals who meet regularly to discuss progress toward their objectives, to provide mutual support and encouragement, and to share insights and ideas that might help each other move toward their goal. The mastermind principle is based on the understanding that human beings are social creatures and that our growth, motivation, and success are profoundly influenced by the people around us. A person surrounded by people who believe in their objective and who actively support their efforts is far more likely to persist through challenges and achieve success than a person who is isolated or surrounded by people who are skeptical of their objective. Additionally, a mastermind group provides a forum for accountability. By regularly sharing progress with the group and discussing challenges encountered, a person is more likely to maintain consistent action toward their objective. The group can also provide practical help, ideas, connections, skills, or resources that support the individual's progress toward their objective. The 8-step in Hill's Desire Formula involves regular review and assessment of progress. Hill recommended that a person periodically, perhaps monthly or quarterly, review their progress toward their objective. This review should not be a harsh judgment of whether they are progressing as quickly as they hope. Rather, it should be an honest assessment of what they are doing well, what is working, and what is not working. The review should examine whether their plan needs to be adjusted, whether they have identified new opportunities or obstacles that need to be accounted for, and whether their actions are actually moving them toward their objective. This regular review keeps a person connected to their objective and helps them to course correct if they find themselves drifting away from their objective or pursuing strategies that are not producing results. Hill also taught that this review should include acknowledgement of progress that has been made. People often underestimate the progress they have made because they remain focused on how much further they need to go. However, acknowledging progress is important for maintaining motivation. If a person set out to accumulate $1 billion and has accumulated $100,000, this is significant progress and should be acknowledged. The person is 20% of the way to their objective. This acknowledgement does not mean becoming complacent. Rather, it means recognizing that the formula is working, that their efforts are producing results, and that if they continue with the same intensity and focus, they will eventually achieve their objective. Beyond the visualization and affirmations, Hill taught that it is important to align one's emotional life with the objective. If a person's objective is to accumulate wealth, but they harbor deep emotional associations between wealth and corruption, or between wealth and loneliness, or between wealth and losing one's humanity, These emotional associations will work against the person's effort. These associations will create internal conflict that undermines the person's ability to maintain concentrated desire and to take consistent action toward their objective. Therefore, Hill recommended that a person examine their beliefs and emotions about wealth. If they discover limiting emotions or associations, they should work to replace these with more empowering beliefs. They might reflect on examples of wealthy people who are also generous, loving, and humanistic. They might examine their own values and affirm that they can pursue wealth while maintaining their values and their humanity. Hill taught that there is a mystical or spiritual dimension to the transformation of wants into wealth. While the formula includes very practical and concrete elements, the written objective, the plan, the consistent action, there is also something that transcends mere mechanics. Hill called this the faith in the invisible, and he described it as a deep trust that when you have clearly defined your objective, when you have aligned your mental and emotional life with your objective, when you have created a plan and engaged in consistent action, then the universe or a higher power or divine providence this step might sound abstract or vague, but Hill was clear that he was not speaking about magical thinking or about replacing hard work with wishful thinking. Rather, he was describing a psychological phenomenon that he had observed repeatedly in the lives of successful people. When a person is truly committed to an objective, when they maintain constant focus on that objective, when they believe it is possible to achieve the objective, and when they take consistent action toward the objective, they often find that opportunities begin to appear that they could not have predicted or planned for. People who can help them appear in their lives. Information. They need arrives at just the right moment. Circumstances align in ways that seem fortunate or serendipitous. Hill taught that this is not actually luck or magic. Rather, it is a function of how the mind works when it is focused on a clear objective. But practically speaking, the effect is that people with clear objectives and committed faith in achieving them seem to experience more fortunate circumstances than people without clear objectives and without faith. Hill provided numerous examples of people who had applied the desire formula and witnessed the transformation of their wants into wealth. One particularly striking example involved a woman who came to Hill's seminar feeling hopeless about her financial situation. She was working in a job that paid modestly. She had minimal savings, and she felt trapped by her circumstances. She had many wants. She wanted financial security. She wanted to travel. She wanted to be able to support her aging parents, but she saw no realistic path to achieving these wants. Hill worked with her to apply the desireformula.org. First, they clarified exactly what she wanted. She wanted to accumulate $250,000 over the next 10 years. They identified that this would require accumulating $25,000 per year. They then created a plan. She would stay in her current job, but would develop skills that would allow her to move into a more lucrative position. She would also start a small side business that could generate additional income. She would invest her savings to generate additional return. She wrote down her objective, the plan, and the actions she would take immediately. She read her objective aloud twice daily. She visualized herself having achieved her goal. She engaged with her mastermind group to maintain accountability and receive support. Within 2 years, her persistence and consistent action had moved her into a more lucrative position in her field. Her side business was generating modest but meaningful income. Her investments were beginning to generate returns. She was on pace to achieve her objective. More importantly, her mindset had transformed. She no longer felt trapped. She felt like she was on a clear path toward achieving her goal. She maintained hope and motivation because she could see specific progress being made. She was no longer experiencing vague wants. she was actively pursuing clearly defined objectives and seeing results. Hill taught that the desire formula works for any objective, not only financial objectives. A person could apply the formula to career goals, relationship goals, health goals, educational goals, or any other area of life. The mechanism is the same. Clarify what you want, develop concentrated desire, create belief and faith, make a plan, visualize and engage emotionally, maintain persistent action, utilize the mastermind principle, review progress regularly, ensure emotional alignment, and maintain faith in the invisible. The combination of these 10 elements creates a powerful force that moves a person from a state of vague wanting to a state of active achievement. To transform wants into wealth, something must be given in exchange. The price might be time, hours of work dedicated to the objective. The price might be comfort, choosing to forego leisure activities to work toward the objective. The price might be money, investing resources into the pursuit of the objective. The price might be social approval, pursuing objectives that others do not understand or support. Hill taught that most people are willing to pay the price necessary to achieve their objectives. They want wealth, but they are unwilling to work the hours necessary to create it. They want health, but they are unwilling to exercise and eat healthfully. They want success, but they are unwilling to sacrifice comfort and leisure time. This unwillingness to pay the price is the reason most people remain stuck in wanting, while a small percentage of people move from wanting to achieving. Hill taught that understanding and accepting the price is crucial to the desire formula. If they realize they are not willing to pay the price, then they should reconsider whether they truly want the objective. Perhaps they want the objective casually, but not intensely enough to warrant paying the price. In that case, they might lower their objective, or accept that they will not achieve this particular want. However, if they realize they are willing to pay the price, then they should commit fully to paying it. They should not hesitate or hold back. They should recognize that the price is the mechanism through which their want will be transformed into wealth, and they should engage in paying the price with enthusiasm and dedication. One of the most important insights that Hill shared about the desire formula is that it often begins to produce results faster than people expect. This is not because the universe has changed or because magic has become real. Rather, it is because once a person begins to apply the formula, their behavior and decisions begin to change immediately. They begin to notice opportunities they had not previously seen. They begin to take actions they had not previously considered. They begin to make different choices about how they spend their time and money. These changed behaviors and decisions quickly begin to produce different results. A person might begin reading books to develop skills related to their objective. A person might begin having conversations with people who can help them achieve their objective. A person might begin pursuing opportunities they had dismissed as too risky or too unlikely to succeed. Within weeks or months, these changed behaviors and decisions begin to produce tangible results. Progress is made. Momentum builds. The person's confidence increases. The cycle becomes self-reinforcing. Hill also taught that the desire formula reveals to people what they truly value and what they truly want. Many people think they know what they want, but when they go through the process of clarifying their desire, writing it down, and committing to a plan to achieve it, they sometimes discover that their stated wants are not actually their true wants. A person might think they want to accumulate a certain amount of money because that is what they believe they should want. But when they go through the process of clarification, they might discover that they do not actually care that much about achieving that specific financial target. This discovery is valuable because it prevents a person from spending years pursuing a goal that is not authentic to them. Instead, they can redirect their efforts toward a goal that they truly care about, which will be much more motivating and which will be much more likely to lead to achievement. Furthermore, Hill taught that the desire formula is not a one-time application, but an ongoing practice that can be refined and improved over time. A person applies the formula to their first objective, and through persisting with the formula, they achieve success. This success provides evidence that the formula works, which increases their confidence in the formula. When they set a second objective, they are more adept at applying the formula because they have seen it work before. They apply it more skillfully with greater confidence and less doubt. They achieve their second objective more quickly and with greater ease than they achieved their first objective. Over time, a person who consistently applies the desire formula becomes increasingly skilled at transforming their wants into reality. Hill emphasized that the desire formula is available to anyone. It does not require wealth to begin with. It does not require a privileged background. It does not require extraordinary intelligence or talent. The formula is a tool that can be used by anyone who is willing to understand it and apply it consistently. The only requirements are clarity about what you want, commitment to achieving what you want, willingness to pay the price to achieve what you want, and persistence in following the formula even when you do not see immediate results. These requirements are available to everyone. Therefore, the path from wants to wealth is available to everyone. The reason that most people do not follow this path is not that the path is unavailable or impossible. It is that most people do not take the time to clearly define what they want, do not commit to paying the price, and do not persist through the challenges that inevitably arise. Hill also taught that the desire formula is not about becoming obsessed or unhealthy in one's pursuit of wealth. Rather, it is about aligning one's thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and actions with a clear objective. A person who applies the formula is not necessarily working more hours than someone else. They are working more strategically. They are not necessarily denying themselves all pleasure and leisure. They are being deliberate about where their time and energy go. They are not necessarily becoming cold or calculating. Many people who apply the formula report that they are more fulfilled and more present in their lives because they have clarity about what they are working toward and why they are working toward. Furthermore, Hill taught that the desire formula helps a person to live more authentically. When a person has gone through the process of clarifying their true wants and has committed to achieving these wants, they are living alignment with their authentic values and aspirations. This alignment creates a sense of integrity and wholeness, even if the specific objective has not yet been achieved. The process of pursuing the objective in alignment with one's values creates a sense of meaning and purpose. This is why people who apply the desire formula often report that they feel more fulfilled even before they have achieved the specific objective. The fulfillment comes not only from achieving the objective, but from the process of pursuing it authentically and purposefully. In conclusion, Napoleon Hill's desire formula represents a systematic, practical, and replicable method for transforming vague wants into concrete wealth and achievement. The formula consists of 10 key steps: clarifying desire, developing concentrated desire, building belief and faith, creating a plan, engaging in visualization, maintaining persistent action, utilizing the mastermind principle, reviewing progress regularly, ensuring emotional alignment, and maintaining faith in the invisible. When a person genuinely applies this formula, when they clarify their objective, write it down, read it daily, visualize it emotionally, create a plan, maintain consistent action, and persist through obstacles, the transformation from wanting to achieving becomes inevitable. The formula is not mysterious or inaccessible. It is based on practical principles of how the human mind works and how human behavior produces results in the world. The formula is available to anyone willing to understand it and apply it. The question is not whether the formula will work. The question is whether you have the clarity about what you truly want, the commitment to achieve it, the willingness to pay the price, and the persistence to follow the formula through to the achievement of your objective. If you can answer yes to these questions, then the transformation of your wants into wealth is not only possible, it is virtually guaranteed.